All right, Steeler fans, it's Friday. It's the second half of the show. It's time for the All Betz Are Off segment. Jeremy Betz. Jeremy, what's going on, man? It's been a busy time of the year.
Real busy, real busy. Lots of fun, too, to keep track of everything going on, and we've got lots to talk about.
We absolutely do. The last time we spoke, the Steelers had not made any moves because they couldn't. Legal tampering period hadn't started, and man, oh man, has a lot changed in such a short period of time. Now, I don't want to steal your thunder because I know you and your buddy Andrew Wilbar, that you all talked about that on the Steelers Fix podcast. You did a great job. I'm going to ask you quickly, though, this is free agency now. So we're not talking DK Metcalf trade. That is a trade. All right. So anyone that was a free agent for whatever reason, what was your favorite signing? And then I'm going to do the opposite. And which was your least favorite? So who was your favorite signing so far in free agency?
Yeah. I think the Mason Rudolph news throws a little bit of a change up to what I had initially said. I think my favorite pickup is Darius Slay, though, as far as what he brings to the locker room this year, what he can provide from a play style standpoint. He's just dynamic. He's a spark plug in the back end, even at 34 years old. He's got plenty of ability left. And I think that he's going to be a really, really fantastic addition to this defense. And when you combine bringing him in along with Eccles to play in the slot, you start to look at this cornerback room and you start to feel pretty good about it, especially the way Corey Trice developed down the stretch last year. I think that the Steelers have a lot of high hopes for this room, and they should based on these signings. I wouldn't be surprised still if they make a move there in the draft later on for some depth, but I do think that this is turning out to be a pretty solid starting group when you add Slay and Eccles into it. And then with all the drama going on with Aaron Rodgers, bringing in Mason Rudolph is just a really good move, really solid move for the Steelers. They're in a bind because of many decisions. We don't have time to go into all of the things that got them to here, and some things outside of their control as well. But being able to get in a guy like Mason Rudolph, who I'm sure the front office and Mike Tomlin feel comfortable with him being able to step in and provide quality play enough to win in the Mike Tomlin way. I think that having him in the building while you wait on Aaron Rodgers to make a decision is a really, really good move. Overall, I like what I've seen out of the Steelers so far. They've made a few more moves today that are pretty fun as well.
Absolutely. So let's go back to Mason Rudolph. Now, you said Darius Slay was your favorite signing, and that's fair, and you went on to other players, which is fine. I put this out on Twitter as a poll, and let me see if I can find the results quickly. But I'll say this. Here's the question. I found it. The question was, if Mason Rudolph is the quarterback one, let's say something happens with Aaron Rodgers, he decides he's going to retire, whatever.
Yeah.
If he's the quarterback one, how many wins would the team have in 2025? The options were 10 or more, 9 or 8 or less. Jeremy, where would you vote?
I voted 9. I think that I think that's exactly what you're looking at, is right around that mark of just better than 500, but not so good that you're really competing for a playoff spot.
Right.
And they might sneak in like a 7th seed, like they have done in the past. That would be in play at 9 and 8. But I do think that would maybe not be my ceiling, but that would be my most likely outcome of those 3 choices. And it's close. It's hard to say whether or not the Steelers can bounce back from some of their deficiencies at the end of the year on defense, because everybody's a year older now, right? And you have made some additions that feel pretty good, but you've lost a few guys as well that you're going to need to replace somehow, some way, whether that's through the draft, especially defensive line is what I'm thinking about. So how does that all work out? I like what the offense has put together. I think it does in a way make it quarterback proof to a degree, but I do think that there's some issues potentially with big plays and things like that. I like the fit for Mason Rudolph in Arthur Smith's offense, but I don't know what his processing speed will be at this stage still. That's always been my biggest issue with him. And if he can't process quickly for this offense, I think that there could be some struggle games. So I'm going to say nine games is kind of the sweet spot for me.
I want to be fair to Mason Rudolph. I don't think that it's not about getting a fair shake. I'm not about to talk like behind closed doors that I don't know anything about. I'm not speculating. But when it comes to the roster, since he has been given a chance starting in 2019, when has he had a really good offensive line, really good weapons around him? I can only point to the very end of 2023 when he took the team to the playoffs, and that was probably as close as you would get to the type of roster that he would have, especially if they keep George Pickens and don't trade him. You have Pickens, Metcalf. Let's say they shock the world and go out and get Cooper Kupp.
Right.
That would be a really, really good wide receiver room. And if the offensive line can keep him upright, I think Mason Rudolph can make the throws. But let me back up a little bit. Let's say they do acquire Aaron Rodgers, and maybe they already have by the time they hear this. I don't know. If they acquire Aaron Rodgers, what number do you put on the win total for him?
Yeah. So first off, I'll say I think Rodgers is coming to Pittsburgh. I would bet on it. Just all the talk. I just think he's taking his time to make final decision, and I don't have a problem with that, especially now that the Steelers have Mason Rudolph in the building. So let me just get that out of the way first. Second, I am extremely high on the Steelers' offense or ability to put up production on offense if Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback. I think you're looking at 11 wins if Aaron Rodgers is your quarterback. I think that he elevates the team enough to get you into division championship conversation. I would go so far as to say that if Aaron Rodgers is the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback, I will predict them probably to win the division. I will probably predict them to be a top 2 or 3 seed in the AFC. I am pretty confident based on what I've seen out of Aaron Rodgers from last season, the second half of last season, that what he would bring to the table for Pittsburgh without the drama and detriment that he caused in New York, because that's not going to happen in Pittsburgh, in my opinion. The leaders are just too strong there. I think what he would bring to the table is top 15 quarterback play that is just dealing the ball to playmakers, and the Steelers defense and skill position players do the rest. And you're a division champion contender in 2025.
The only thing, I like how that there are some Steeler fans that like to have their cake and eat it too. So they like to yell and scream at Mike Tomlin for handcuffing quarterbacks. Well, if there's a quarterback out there that's not going to be handcuffed by anyone, it's Aaron Rodgers. And so if you want to say like, okay, I want to see a quarterback that's just going to go let it rip and just say, Mike, you mind the business. So you mind your business, worry about the defense. It's Aaron Rodgers. So if you're someone that's like that, I totally think that you should be on board with them getting Aaron Rodgers. We'll see though. But now let's continue down the path that we are with free agency and talk about the least favorite signing so far when we record this.
Whew. I don't hate any of the signings, but I guess the one that I would question is the Malik Harrison signing. That one to me was like, you had a good thing going with Elandon Roberts in the building last year, and adding him in, I thought that made that foursome of Steelers linebackers maybe one of the best, at least one of the most intriguing and versatile in the NFL, maybe even one of the league's best linebacker cores. Now you let Elandon walk, and I like Malik Harrison. I think that he's a good player. He was a starter for Baltimore last year. He beat out their what I can't remember it. Simpson is the guy he beat out over there to get in to a starting role. And so he also brings all the special teams prowess that Elandon Roberts doesn't. So it's kind of a mix and match there. The thing was, I was looking for a defensive tackle signing at that price. I was looking for an impact depth piece at a different position, because I thought the linebacker room was mostly set. So it was more head scratcher. Not that I didn't like it, but it just didn't feel like the appropriate time for that move. And obviously the Steelers felt differently, but so that would be my least favorite signing to this point. Scotty Miller might fall in that category too for me. It's like, I don't know why you need a Scotty Miller on this team when you've got Roman Wilson, Calvin Austin already locked into the roster. You've got enough of those types of guys. Why bring in Scotty Miller as well?
Yeah, that's a great point. So, all right, Jeremy, we have a few minutes left. And what we're going to be doing every week leading up to the draft is you're going to update us on the pre-draft visits, who's coming in, who have they met with. There's only been a couple that they've met with since last week, believe it or not. I think we had 3 last week, and I think there's 2 recent ones. So why don't you tell people about those players? What should we look for? What positions? All that good stuff.
Yeah, so it's 2 running backs. Really, really easy to see what the Steelers' focus is right now. And I'm sure there's obviously going to be more defensive tackles coming in, more corners coming in, wide receivers, things like that. But right now, running back is the focus. And Jeff, I'll say this: it's those second, third, fourth round type guys that they're looking at, which to me says that they've got other plans maybe for their first pick. And we'll see some of these other visits coming in, but this running back class really is historically deep. And you look at these 2 guys in any normal year, these are locks for second round picks, and they might be 2 of the best running backs on the board. But DJ Giddens out of K-State, he's a little bit bigger bodied running back, 6 foot, 212 pounds, but he runs like he's 5'9", 190 pounds. I mean, he is as elusive as it gets. If he gets into the open field, that first tackler will miss 99% of the time. He just has an elite sense about him to know how to put guys on the turf. I said to Andrew the other on the fix that he keeps all the orthopedic surgeons in business wherever he's playing because he's breaking ankles all the time. So he's unique, but he can run with some power up the middle as well. And I think he would fit well into the Steelers' zone scheme that we're hearing, is kind of what they're looking for in a back. He would complement with Jaylen Warren and now Kenneth Gainwell pretty well as well, I think. That's the first guy. Then the second guy, he's 5'8", 200 pounds. He's a short guy, diminutive guy, stature-wise, but this guy is a spark plug. He is really fun to watch. I likened him, Jeff, to Devonta Freeman, who played for the Falcons in their Super Bowl run all those years ago. Even Michael Turner. He's a little bit smaller than Michael Turner is, but low center of gravity, really fluid runner, can bounce off tackles. He is Jaylen Warren-like in his ability to kind of pinball off tacklers, but he has much more top end speed. When he gets into the open field, it is over. He's gone. He ran a 4.42 at his pro day, but there were some scouts that had him in the 4.3s. So he is lightning fast. He just had his pro day with Tennessee, and then he put up a 35-inch vert and 10 feet 4 inches in the broad jump. Explosive player. He would be a rotational guy, obviously, with Jaylen Warren, but he has top back potential. He broke all sorts of records at Tennessee this year.
Well, they're definitely doing their homework on the running backs. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Are you thinking, because you said, they're looking at, your rounds 2, 3, 4, day 2, day 3 type players. You thinking defensive line round 1?
I am. I really am. I think they have a shot to take Derek Harmon at 21 pretty easy. I don't see anybody ahead of them that would prioritize a defensive tackle over some of their other needs, especially once you get out of that top 10. And there's not a top 10 defensive tackle in this class outside of Mason Graham. He'll go to the Jags at 5 is probably the earliest he'll go, and he won't go much later than that. So I think the Steelers will have kind of their pick of the rest of the defensive tackle group at the back end of the first round. They might even be able to trade back and still land one of these guys. Kenneth Grant is the other guy I'm looking at. And if that doesn't happen there, one of the things that we'll see what happens, there was a lot of chatter at the end of the season that the Steelers and Minkah Fitzpatrick weren't on the same wavelength on things. So I wonder if maybe that, as draft gets closer, something happens and materializes with that. If that were to be the case, then safety becomes a need, and there's a couple safeties in the first round that I would not mind taking up there. And then, I don't know, Jeff, do you feel comfortable enough with the offensive line as it's currently constructed? If one of the top offensive linemen falls to you in the draft, that you wouldn't maybe make that move too at guard or even offensive tackle? I don't know. There's some consideration to be had there as well. But corner could be one of those other surprise ones, I think. But for me, it's defensive tackle.
Offensive line depends on the position. If you said you were getting a versatile interior offensive lineman, that's your pick, your first pick, I'm fine with that. because now you're saying if Mason McCormick doesn't cut it, we have someone that can do it.
Right.
Same with Isaac Seumalo. If he's kind of washed, you have someone that could fill in. Tackle, I want a veteran. I'd love to see them get a swing guy, even like a Kelvin Beachum type who's been there, done that, can play both sides. Someone like that. I don't want to have a rookie tackle that is potentially coming in if Broderick Jones can't get the job done. So that's the way I view the offense. But I wouldn't be upset. I wouldn't be upset at all. You got to block. You got to open up the holes to those running backs that we just talked about. So, all right, Jeremy, what's coming up for you on both the Steel Curtain Network website, Fans First Sports Network, and all that fun stuff?
Yeah, we'll keep following along for all of the visit tracking. I'll have an article out for each one of those, or if they come in a group, we'll hit them all at once there. The Dylan Sampson one should be out or coming out very soon as you're listening to this. So go look at that one. And then I just finished up my wish list articles, all 8 divisions. So go back and check those back out as the offseason continues rolling. I'll be hitting up a Steelers think piece here, probably about the quarterback position over the next couple days as well. I've got a lot of thoughts about the quarterback position, and I don't think that they run very in current with most of Steeler Nation thoughts. So I'm going to try to give some of my opinions on that. But yeah, just keep following along there. And then on the podcast, the Steelers Fix, the Draft Dynasty podcast, it's the season for those 2 podcasts. That's what we do, Andrew Wilbar and I. It is our area, not of expertise, I would say, but of love. It's our passion, if you will. So check all that out and stay tuned.
All right, Jeremy, as always, enjoy it and have a good weekend. We'll talk next week.
Have a good one, Jeff.